Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We have an interesting project today. I've worked on this reel in the past. This is a Shimano Torium 30, and it's got a bad anti-reverse bearing clutch. So we're going to show you how to service this reel by taking the clutch out and replacing it, and hopefully that will do the trick. So the reel has been serviced already. We're not going to go through the full service on this video. There is a video in my library that shows you how to do that. However, if you want to see how the clutch gets installed and how to rectify the issue with the skipping anti-reverse clutch, well, then this is the video for you. If you enjoy the art of reel repair, if you like to work on fishing reels and solve the issues that occur from time to time, well, then I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button that will show you how to access the videos that I'm posting. And I post all kinds of videos. This one's on a saltwater fishing reel. There's a lot more out there on freshwater fishing reels and everything in between. Spinners, low profile bait casters, round bait casters, ocean reels, and so on. And I would encourage you to use that notification button to sort through the ones that are posting, so that you can see which ones are there for your viewing pleasure. Well, you saw one of the issues right away with this one. I call it the rocket spring. I got lucky, but there's a little click rocket that goes onto the main gear sleeve, and if you're not paying attention, that's an easy one to lose. Well, we've taken the handle off. We've taken off the star adjuster. There's 3 washers that go underneath, 4 washers that go underneath. One's a bearing seal, and those are going to my parts tray. When I do remove the pieces and parts, I like to put them in this central place so that I know where they are when it comes time to reinstall. Well, there's one more shield here. We don't need to take that off at the moment. We want to focus on removing the rest of the side plate, and that's held on by 4 Phillips head screws. So this is a deep sea fishing reel. Typically we'll call them saltwater reels. Of course, if you're in the Great Lakes, or if you're into the Gulf of Mexico, if you're in any place where you can take advantage of the line capacity and are fishing for larger species, well, then this reel will certainly satisfy those needs. This reel has been overhauled, like I mentioned. It's a very nice reel. It's a high-speed reel, which is why a lot of folks like these. It's particularly if you're trolling, or if you're jigging and you need a high speed to retrieve that lure, then this one's for you. And you'll see in a moment when we take the reel apart, the size of the main gear and the quality of the materials. This is a well-made reel. As I take the screws out of the side plate, you will notice me laying them on my table, and I do that before I put those into the parts tray, because I want to make sure that all of the screws are the same length. Shimano, for some reason, is particularly one of those manufacturers that puts different size screws in their side plates, and you do need to note, in this case they're all the same, so I'll just put those into a corner of the parts tray. There's 2 more down here that are not the same. They're smaller, and well, you need to note those as well. Okay, well, let's see if we can remove the side plate. I think I have to take the 2 screws out on the top there, so we'll go ahead and do that. But you'll notice these 2 are smaller. And it's a good place to tell you, take pictures along the way as you're servicing your reel. You want to make sure that you note the locations and the orientations of pieces and parts before you disassemble. That way, if you take the reel apart and you get stuck, then this is one way that'll help you to reorient yourself and get it going again. You can do that with a schematic. That's a burst diagram of the reel, and they are available on the internet. So if you already got your reel apart, if you didn't take your pictures, and if you're wondering about parts location and so on, go ahead and use that schematic. All right, well, we've taken out the 4 side plate screws there, the 2 here, and the 2 that hold the bridge on. This whole assembly should come up now. And as I mentioned, I've serviced this in advance, but here's a look at the inside of your reel. And here's a look at why that clutch has to be replaced. It's rusted. I don't know how that occurred, but it did. And so I'm going to take this last bearing shield off here. That was the last of the washers. And now we have the sleeve and one very rusty clutch, which has been causing this reel to slip. Well, the bearing can come through the top, but the clutch comes through the bottom. I went ahead and I ordered the replacement clutch. I was able to get this clutch at HPR Bearings. They are an eBay seller, and they carry an awful lot of replacement pieces and parts. Okay, we should be able to push the other clutch through. Sometimes it requires a little bit of persuasion. I'm just trying to get it with my hand. There you go. And push it out. Just be careful. But you can see this is totally rusted and the cause of the slip of this reel. So sometimes it's just a lot easier and a lot better to get the replacement part. It's hard to clean those things out, and you're never quite sure. So this reel came in a while ago. Last season we tuned it up, and we found out that, well, we thought we could eliminate the slip. We weren't able to. You saw that I just pressed it back in. It's very easy. This one's not held in by an awful lot. One of the things you need to note when we took that out is there's a metal side and a plastic side, and the plastic side faces down. If you put that in the wrong way, you're not going to have a reel that's going to turn forward. It'll only turn backwards. So, good place for the pictures. All right, let's just go for the reinstall then. We're going to put this back in. This is helpful if you have your reel apart and you're struggling a little bit. All of these pieces have been greased. As I mentioned, it's been greased, cleaned, and set up for that. You want to note where your piece is in terms of the release point for that yoke, because there's a pin right here that needs to merge with the hole in the yoke in order to easily get the reel back in and assembled. We're going to put that in, slide it over the top, seat the reel, and then make sure that the whole side plate is nice and tight all the way around. If you've got a gap here, chances are your pin is not in the yoke, and if that's not in it, you can sometimes get away with just kind of turning this to seat it properly. Sometimes you just have to go inside and try to reset it visually, either raise it to the top or to the bottom before you can continue. The first two screws I like to put in are the screws that hold the center in place. Those tie in the side plate with the the springs there for the yoke. And if I get it centrally, usually you can hold the whole thing together, take the pressure off of your hand acting as a clamp. Just go ahead and put that second one in. And then we can fill in the blanks with all those other screws. We know that the 4 long screws go in the top of the case, and the 2 shorter screws go in the base of the case. So we're going to just do that right now. If you can, start them by hand, that way you won't risk stripping the threads. I like to always use a hand screwdriver when I'm installing the screws into the case. I've been asked from time to time about the mechanical screwdrivers, the battery operated ones. I generally don't recommend that because of the torque involved in it. I certainly don't recommend it when you're installing. If you want to pull the screws out with that, that's okay, but I would tell you the first turn of that screw, you should use a screwdriver on to break its seal, because these battery operated screwdrivers have a lot of torque, and from time to time I will see a reel that came in, somebody grabbed the mechanical screwdriver on the way out, snapped the head off because of the torque involved in it. So try to loosen the screw with the handheld before you go to the mechanical. Also, if you need to drive it in, I understand a lot of folks have arthritis or weak hands or what have you, if you're going to use the screwdriver, you can use it, but leave it proud, leave it short, and then finish the turn, the last turn or two by hand. So, for example, drive the screw to about here with the mechanical one, and then turn the last few pieces by hand. Well, I hope you're learning how to do this. I try to answer all questions. If you have a question on this reel or any reel that you're working on, maybe you're stuck on one, maybe you want to know the history of the reel, maybe you're just curious about how the reel is used or so on. If you leave those questions in the comments section of this video, I'll be happy to try and respond to you. I do answer questions almost always. It's in the morning, so if you're leaving one in the afternoon or evening, don't get frustrated if you don't get an answer until the morning. I do have a business card at the end. It does have a phone number. I don't recommend calling that phone number. Whenever I'm repairing reels or doing videos or that, I don't stop to answer the phone, so it may be harder to reach me that way. All right, we can put the bearing back on, and with that bearing, I like to put a little bit of oil into it. Again, this reel's been serviced earlier, so we're skipping some of the steps that you would have here. There's a bearing shield that goes on next. It's kind of a flimsy little piece of plastic or something. And then we have our bottom washer. We have our two belt washers. Oh, I think I have that in reverse. This is the one for this is your bearing washer here. And you have your two bell washers. They're not flat washers. Then you have the flat washer, which is going to be the washer that we're going to use to hold the spring in first. This little rocket thing here is quite the performer. And there's two ways that you can reset this click. You'll notice that there is a spring in here, and the tag end of that pointy rocket will go in there. And you can do two things with this. One of them is to actually use a pick or a toothpick and come through the top to compress the spring and hold it. And the other, which is the one recommended by Shimano, is to use the top washer as a wedge. And again, you got to be careful here, because if you're not careful, you're going to shoot that. But that's how you would wedge it. You would put the washer in to hold it tight and firm, and then you go ahead and grab your star adjuster to reseat this. The star adjuster eventually will come down, and it will press the washer out and release it. And now you can hear the click on the adjustment, so you know you've got it proper. Okay, next up then is our handle. Handle and handle cap. So if you were to service this reel, and again I have a video out there on servicing, but the only thing missing aside from the disassembly here is that you would remove your main gear. And once the main gear is removed, you would check your drag washers to make sure that those are in good condition. You would clean off any excess greases and oils. And then you would work towards re-lubing the main gear and the pinion gear and setting it up. Well, I need to tighten this down a little bit. I'm using this clip here as the guide. So we need to tighten a little bit more until we are aligned with the hole in the handle that houses the set screw. Well, we're almost there, you can see. I just need to back it off a little bit. So I'll leave the clip on for this. Now we're properly aligned. We can take the tie-down clip, use the screw to hold it in place, and finish the reassembly of this reel. Okay, Last thing to do then is just to test it. First of all, we want to make sure that the release lever is working. It is, because when you flip it back now, you've got the gear. Nice winding. Does it stop? It certainly does. That's what that anti-reverse is all about. So that's how you replace a worn or a broken anti-reverse clutch in a Shimano reel. We've used the Torium, but it applies to the Dakotas and the other reels like that. And I hope that's been of value to you. Just adding a little skill to your kit bag and helping you to service your own reels. And if you're in a small business, to service the reels of others. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, I appreciate it if you hit the like button, and I will answer any questions that you have in the comment section. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. Your efforts truly are appreciated. To everybody, have a great time fishing. Make sure that your reels are serviced and ready to go. And I wish you good luck in the water and tight lines. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.